The following series of videos is on the manuscript, The Morgenthau Plan, Soviet Influence on American Post-War Policy. This manuscript, while it points out certain crimes committed in the name of the United States, is not designed to condemn the U.S. It is rather to reveal that the American people were the victim of an enormous fraud. It is designed to reveal how hundreds of people adhering to an alien ideology steered U.S. foreign policy in the interest of a foreign power. In March 1946, Chief Special Agent Guy Hottel sent a memo to the FBI's J. Edgar Hoover about communist agents. Quote, "Today nearly every department or agency of this government is infiltrated with them in various degree. To aggravate the situation, they appear to have concentrated most heavily in those departments which make policy, particularly in the international field, or carry it into effect. Such organizations as the State and Treasury Departments, the Foreign Economic Administration, the War Production Board, the Office of Strategic Service," that's the predecessor of the CIA, etc. Unquote. This manuscript is more than a history of post-war Europe. It has a great deal of relevance for today. The modern global financial system was created during this period. The International Monetary Fund and the World Bank are recognized as the creation of the Assistant Secretary of the Treasury, Harry Dexter White, one of the most influential men in the 20th century, and a Soviet agent of influence. Many tools of the deep state were created during the Roosevelt administration. Federal employees, excluding military, went from about 500,000 in 1933 to 3.5 million by the end of the Roosevelt administration. A note on sources. In order to maintain credibility, it's essential to rely on credible sources. I've provided nearly 1,000 footnotes in this manuscript. The only question is, how credible are they? Are government publications the most reliable? Brighton Barron, the assistant chief of the State Department's Research and Publication Division, recounts how the historian in charge of the Potsdam Papers informed his superiors at the Historical Division that the documents were, quote, too hot for public eyes, and requested that they be returned to the files. There is much information surrounding the Quebec Conference and the Yalta Agreement that has not been released. In addition, much information has disappeared in places like Sandy Berger's socks. In order to obtain a more accurate account of what took place, it's necessary to rely on a number of often contradictory sources. Of course, this is an excellent opportunity for an author's bias to influence his work. This is where the reader's judgment comes into play. Any work dealing with a complex subject will have occasional errors. I'd appreciate it if these errors were pointed out to me. They will be corrected in any future work. I know from critical reviews of my manuscript that some people are uncomfortable with my conclusions. I welcome disagreement and constructive criticism. Like any informed individual, I have a perspective that colors my interpretations. Some of my allegations are outrageous. They are outside the Overton window. That range of ideas the public will accept. That is why they must be thoroughly documented. One last remark about the deep state. This manuscript reveals the methods they used and still use to conceal their crimes. These crimes deal with more than just deception. The book reveals that members of the deep state are quite capable of committing mass murder and the enslavement of millions. Think of former Secretary of State Madeleine Albright's response to Leslie Stahl's question about Iraq. Quote, "We've heard that 500,000 children have died. I mean, that's more children than died in Hiroshima. And you know, is the price worth it? Albright responded, I think this is a very hard choice, but we think the price is worth it. The documentation here reveals that charges I make cannot be disputed. Thank you.